want to present a company called Gold Mining Inc., trading on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker GLDG. The reason is that this is a company that trades at multi-year lows, extremely cheap. At the end of this video, click on this link in the description box. There's an entire presentation explaining how this company is effectively 80% or 90% more discounted than anything out there. If you're bullish on gold, I urge you to stop everything you're doing and download this carefully drafted report now.
According to an explosive Newsweek story, it is reporting that a new surveillance program is underway on Trump supporters over what the Bureau perceives as possible threats of violence and major civil disturbances from anyone who supports the former president. The FBI is denying this explosive Newsweek report in a statement. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton this week was very clear in her solution to supporters of Trump. Watch this.
Sadly, so many of those extremists, those MAGA extremists, take their marching orders from Donald Trump, who has no credibility left by any measure. And when do they break with him? Because at some point, maybe there needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members, but something needs to happen.
Formal deprogramming. Joining me right now with reaction is former FBI Special Agents Stephen Friend and Nicole Parker. Both had long, distinguished careers in the FBI. And we thank you both for being here this morning. Stephen, kick us off here on your reaction to Hillary Clinton wanting a formal deprogram of Trump supporters and this report from Newsweek on the FBI's new surveillance program on Trump supporters.
Well, this Newsweek report, at first glance, I was relieved to see the mainstream media catching up on what I blew the whistle about 13 months ago. But just digging into it a little bit more, that's a sympathetic news source. This is a sympathetic journalist who's essentially a mouthpiece for the intelligence community, who's gone out and allowed the FBI to get ahead of a bad message here. The FBI is incredibly afraid of what's being exposed. I've exposed it in my op-eds, in my recently published book, and in this Dinesh D'Souza movie that's coming out later this month, Police State. And that is the fact that the FBI has a quota system, and it's willing to entrap vulnerable, innocent Americans. So this was the FBI's attempt to soft-pedal this information out to a sympathetic media source and essentially launder it into, in the end, and what Hillary Clinton touched on, it's a warning. It's a threat to the American people to essentially quell their willingness to participate in the political process going into the 2024 election cycle.
Wow. So you're saying that this was an actual intentional leak by the FBI to get this story out via a sympathetic reporter?
It is. I mean, look, I've got my own media contacts. I've leaned on them and asked about Mr. Arkin on this. He's a reliable mouthpiece for the DOD and for the intelligence community to get out this information because they want to be able to be in a position where Christopher Wray can stand up in front of a congressional hearing and say, this is old news, we've already addressed it. And I also like to compare it to the sign you see on the side of the road where there's a speeding indicator. It puts that thought in your head that I'm going to slow down because there might be a police officer who's going to write me a ticket. But here, the stakes are much higher. The FBI is going to put you in federal prison if you are outwardly supportive of one particular candidate.
Wow. Nicole, weigh in on this. I know that we've seen a weaponization across the board, and you have pointed out that the FBI threatened to fire agents who criticized any emphasis on the January 6th investigation. That was reported from a whistleblower by the Washington Times. What can you tell us?
A whistleblower came forward from the FBI this summer, and they were involved in a CIVITS meeting, which is basically a video teleconference with the deputy director and all of the SAC special agents in charge and other, executive management. And this individual heard that the deputy director was saying, look, anyone that can't understand the FBI's response to January 6th versus the summer of 2020 really probably shouldn't work here at the FBI, and I can personally explain to them the difference. That is extremely chilling to an employee who is listening to that. And I can tell you that there were hundreds, if not thousands, of FBI employees that were concerned about the response to January 6th versus the summer of 2020. But Maria, I think something that is extremely relevant today, after we are seeing what is going on in this tragic attack in Israel, the FBI has been so focused on charging misdemeanors from January 6th. We're talking predominantly misdemeanors, over 1,000. In almost 3 years, that has been their focus. Maria, I joined the FBI because I witnessed the terrorist attacks on September 11th in New York City down at the World Financial Center when I was at Merrill Lynch. I hope and pray that the FBI is as focused on international terrorism right now as they have been on going after people that were there on January 6th at the Capitol, MAGA supporters, Trump supporters, whatever you want to call it. International terrorism is a serious threat, and we need to make sure that we are protecting our homeland. If you ask Americans what they care about, I can guarantee you that they are going to be more concerned about not having another 9/11 than they are about a potential January 6th. I do not condone violence on January 6th. I never have, and I never will, but we cannot lose sight of what matters most. The United States, we are an ally to Israel. We are a target. Right. Hamas, Iran, they do not like us. I sure hope that the FBI is utilizing as many resources as they have for January 6th and those investigations and protecting us at home. It could be a cyber attack, Maria. It could be a kinetic or a physical attack like we saw on September 11th. We have to be on point at all times. And just like your former guest mentioned, Marjorie Taylor Greene talked about the border. That's dangerous. As a former FBI agent, we have no idea who has crossed that southern border, Maria. We do not know, and we need to make sure that we do not have terrorists entering our country. And frankly, we know that we have, because there have been individuals that have been on the terrorist watch list. We have no idea who is here, and it is time to step in and take leadership and protect our country.
Yeah, Stephen, your thoughts on that, as there are reports that nearly 1,000 people have been killed in the Israel-Gaza war just in the last 2 days.
What we saw yesterday was an actual physical embodiment of what's been going on politically in this country for the last 2.5 years. And that is what Benjamin Netanyahu has talked about. That is, if the Palestinians put down their arms, there would be peace in the Middle East. If the Israelis did, there would be a global war. Now, on this side, we have lawfare going on. We have one side that's gone after a former president and a leading candidate for office this time, using every legal mechanism at its fingertips. And we have the other side that's too happy to trot out to the microphone and say that they can't wait to not use the power at their fingertips. We need to have mutually assured destruction in order to restore some semblance of balance. There are 20 states in this country that have a veto-proof Republican majority. You can't tell me that there's not some Republicans, attorneys general, who are willing to bring and convene grand juries to indict significant or prominent members of the Democrat Party, cabinet members, because the only way out of this and restore balance is if there is a response. Clearly, one side has turned its key, it's launched its missiles, it's gone after President Trump, and it's not going to stop with him. They're going to convict him, they're going to try to incarcerate him, and then who are they going to come up for? And going back to this Newsweek report, clearly the FBI is happy to be the teeth on the attack dog going after anybody. It could be you, Maria, it could be Nicole, it could be me. Somebody is coming next. This will not stop until the Republicans in the House are willing to defund these type of outrageous, politicized and weaponized actions by the DOJ, and at the state and local level where they're willing to hold the Democrats accountable, because that's the only way that we're going to find our way out of this.